Good morning. I'll just see if anyone's coming to join us this morning. So today we're going to be making crackers. Very few pantry basics that you'll need. So today we're just using some plain flour, garlic powder, salt, pepper, oil, and that's it. A bit of water. So you can knock these up really easily with exactly what you've already got in your pantry. And because it is a really quick recipe, and the saliva would only be going for about a minute, I thought we'd also make a quick dip as well. We're inviting ourselves up to my parents' house this Arvo, and they're always a little bit happier to see us if we bring food. So I'll be making a dip as well. Hi Julie, good morning. All right, what time is it? 9:01. All right, we'll get started anyway. So the first thing to mention, and the dough needs to rest for a couple of minutes, so I'll go into a bit more detail on this when it's resting. But this particular recipe, the cracker recipe that I like to use, it's in the UK cookbook. So when you're searching for crackers, open your filters all the way up. So I don't have a country selected. I just have English selected as my filter. And once you're done finding that, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and save that filter. So that will be how you always search. So today, this is just in my week. I've already set my week up. Now, Cookie Dough's had a little bit of a glow up. So the display is a little bit different if it's been a little while since you've had a look at Cookie Dough. So I've already pre-selected these. These are the garlic and thyme crackers. So, and then just click the picture. As always, you can scroll down and see what you're in for in terms of ingredients. I've already heat my oven, so it's already on. All right, let's get started. Sorry, that's probably a little bit better. There we go, perfect. Oh, if you don't know, I always store my lids upside down with the measuring cup slightly off. Because it's a complete seal, it just stops any sort of smells that might be cropping up. So that's a really handy tip if you want to take that on board. So just store it that way. All right, so we're just going to the green button here, start cooking. All right, so as I said, I've already done my oven. Now, thyme. I do have some fresh rosemary, but I just always use dry thyme. I don't really bother about buying fresh herbs because it will not blow the price of this out by a bit. And I'm pretty generous with how much I put in there. I'm going to be doubling this recipe today as well because although it does make a huge amount of crackers, these are insanely popular and they don't last long. So 220 grams of plain flour. As always with your bread recipes with Thermomix, you want to be adding just a little bit extra. So if you're just making one serve of these, I'd be adding about 240 to 250 grams. Oh, yeah. Right, I might as well just do the lot. Right here. All right, that'll do. All right, next, olive oil, which is probably the most expensive part of this whole thing. So there really isn't a lot to this. As I said, it's something that you can just grab out of the pantry, knock up quite quickly and be on your way. I'm a little bit more generous with the garlic powder as well. Now you can choose to leave the sugar in or out. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to pop it in because it's for other people rather than my family. But again, at least you get the choice of being able to cut down your sugar intake. Now again, sea salt flakes, I am a bit more generous. And the reason being is that I am not going to be sprinkling the sea salt onto the crackers themselves at the end. I find that I always way over salt them because I like the look of the sea salt flakes on top, so I always tend to go a little bit too hard on them. Now this is flavors that you can change up. If you want some chili flakes or more pepper or less pepper, whatever you want, you can toss into these. All right, now this is it. It's done. The dough's done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the time here. So I've just selected the time circle there, and I'm just going to increase it to 20 seconds because I want to very slowly get this dough to mix around because I don't want it all to splash up the sides of the mixing bowl. Now, with this recipe, I'll just tell you right now before I forget, it is really, really easy to kind of read halfway. It says to put them in the oven, and you think, great, I know what to do from here. Don't skip the last step. The last step says to turn your oven off and leave the crackers in the oven to harden and crisp up for 10 minutes. And that is one thing that people do skip. And their crackers end up really doughy and they can't work out why. So that is exactly why. Don't skip that bit. All right, so all that's done is just brought that dough together. So I'll bring you over here. Oops. There we go. Can you see that okay? My handy dandy thermal mat. I've got 3 of these now actually, but this one of these, I can't tell, they wear themselves quite well. So between the 2, you can't really tell which is which. But one of these I bought when I first purchased my Thermomix 3 years ago, and it's still going strong. So all I'm going to do is tip this out onto here. I'm going to give the mixing bowl blades here a little turn because I don't want to stick my hands straight into the bowl when I can't see where the blades are because they are so sharp. So when it's that full, just give them a little twist at the bottom there, they'll come free. All right, so I'm just going to bring the dough together. So at least this mat here, it's going to keep my bench pretty clean and I don't have to worry about flouring any surfaces. All right, that'll do. We'll just get these little bits up. So you can need this in your TM6 as well. So you can just go to your dough function in the apps side, but I find that just easy just to quickly put that together. All I'm doing is just flattening it out into a little rectangle. And then I'm just going to cover that and let it rest for 10. So it's not going to rise, it's just plain flour. But we do just need to give that dough a little bit of time to rest. All right, that's it. Nice and clean. My bench is still nice and clean. Easy peasy. We'll come back over here. Now, one of 2 things can happen is I can just give this bowl, I'll just fill it with a litre of water and put it through a dough wash. So if you're wondering where these things are I'm talking about, if you slide away from your selector wheel here, these will bring up all of your modes or your functions, whatever you want to call them. So your pre-clean actually has a dough mode set in. So that's how you get away. It doesn't heat the water, so you don't make tiny scones with all of the leftover flour that's in there. And your dough mode here. So if you did want to sort of bring it together a little bit more, you can run it through your dough mode. But I'm not going to let you sit here for 5 minutes and watch my machine clean itself. So I'm just going to grab my handy dandy second bowl for today. I've just stored upside down. And we're going to make some dip. Wait. So just back here to my week, which is just here in your selector, my week. And I'm just making the capsicum and sun-dried tomato dip. Now, this is another tip I'll pass on. If you scroll down this time, it's actually going to give you a ton of hints and tips. So how to serve it, what to serve it with. It freezes. It's a great alternative to pizza sauce. If you prefer sheep's milk to cow's milk, what substitutions, nut-free, cashew-free, and rocket dip. So all of these things are here. So all of the possible variations, or again, you can do whatever you like. But I find this one a really, really quick and easy one to knock together if I'm heading out. So Parmesan, this particular recipe, you can leave the Parmesan in or out. It doesn't really matter. I personally prefer the taste of Parmesan, so I'm going to leave it in. But again, if you're more of on the budget conscious, you can definitely leave it out. That is no problem at all. Now, ladies, I know, Christy, you've seen this before when I made this on my little road show last month. But it's always good to see it again in action. So again, all of these items that I'm going to be using are things you're probably keeping in your fridge or pantry already. So it is just a really quick, easy one to knock up if you're heading out. So that's the Parmesan in. Next, garlic clove. Now, because we're not cooking it, a very, very small garlic clove is all I'm going to be using. So it goes in. It's just going to blitz that up to a powder. So all the way to speed 9. It's going to get really loud. So I can kind of hear that that's already done its job. So I've just hit the selector wheel and that's stopped it. So it doesn't need to run for that whole time. And there we go. Beautifully blitzed. Have you bought Parmesan that looks like that from the shop before? How quick and easy was that? And about half the price and no anti-caking agents, which, as we all know, is code for sawdust. All right, sun-dried tomatoes. 100 grams. All right, that'll do. All right, half a capsicum. I'm going to keep that jar there because it's going to ask for oil in a bit, and that's already set in oil, so I'm just going to use the sun-dried tomato oil. Plus it'll bulk up the flavour. All right. So just half the capsicum, de-seeded. This is just left over from dinner 2 nights ago. I only used half. So again, use whatever you've got. There's another dip that I really like that I can knock up quite quickly, which is a beetroot dip. So I just use canned beetroot and some cashews. Everything else is pretty much the exact same. Whiz it up and that's done in about 30 seconds as well. So if someone shows up unexpectedly, it's a really, really cheap, easy alternative. Because who's bought these sort of things from the shop? I looked the other day, it's $9 for some dip, which is just crazy. So again, olive oil, I'm just going to use this sun-dried tomato oil. 20 grams. easy white vinegar. It's just a tiny, tiny, tiny splash of that. And there we go. There's your, oops. So it's a good demonstration. So your machine will not work unless it can feel your lid in there. There we go. So this symbol is turbo mode. So that is getting the blades going as quick as possible. So it says do it 5 to 7 times. Stop and check between and see if it's the consistency you like. If you do it 5 times, it's going to make it quite fine, which is not really what I prefer. I like it a little bit chunkier. See here how quick and fast that is? All right. So I can go ahead and just take a little look in there. Can you see that all right? So not quite there yet. I'll do it probably 1 or 2 more times. And that'll be where I like it. 1 more. Yep, perfect. That's it. Easy peasy. So there we go. Super, super simple. Way quicker than going up the shops. All right, back over to the rest of our crackers here. Now, ladies, you'll have to excuse me for 2 seconds. I've just had the baby wake up, so I'll just go and grab him. I'll be 2 seconds. Well, the timing of that could have been better. Oh, alright, so all I'm going to do is divide this dough into 4. Easy. Flatten this out a little bit. Roll out. So what I'm going for is a pretty thin... what's what I'm looking for? Anyway, I'm looking for it to be quite thin. Now, this is a task that is a little bit more sticky in summer. So you've got to work quite quickly or put a little bit of extra flour in. Because I do find in summer, particularly in my kitchen, I've got all these beautiful windows and absolutely no air conditioning. So I think the main problem is I'm already hot. I can't be bothered being in here for very much longer. I'm next to an oven that's on 230 degrees. So I'm pretty desperate to get out of there as well. It's a good thing about Thermomix is I can do basically all of this virtually one-handed. All right. I'll do this edge a little bit more. Okay, that isn't too bad. All right, so obviously the thinner they are, the more that you want to watch it. So I find if I make them super, super, super thin, I probably would leave it in the oven for that last step when it's off for about 5 minutes rather than 10. Oops. And if they're if you like your crackers a little bit thicker, then yeah, do it for the whole 10. All right, so that's all I'm doing. So you can see that's, oh, can you see that? No. Anyway, it's rolled quite thin. And then I'm just going to it does take you through how to do this on the machine if you do it with a knife. But I've got this cracker roller, it's 20 bucks from the mix shop. And I just roll it over. And it scores these perfectly. So easy as that. So it's scored them into my little cracker strips. And there, all I'm going to do is place them onto my baking trays. This is the rose gold baking tray with the liner off the mix shop. That that one's pretty new, but you can see my original line where I bought 3 years ago. She's a little bit more loved. Just lay them on your baking trays. Pop it in for 5 minutes, turn them, put them back in for another 5. And as I said, leave the oven closed, turn it off and leave it for about 5 to 10 minutes to crisp up, and that's it. Any questions? No, good morning, Emma. All right, so I'm not sure how much you saw, Emma, but we've just made very quick crackers and a dip. So we've done the sun-dried tomato dip. Easy peasy. So I did mention as well, these crackers are in the UK cookbook. Oops. So if you haven't reset your filters on Cookie Doo yet to include all countries and just English on, you won't be able to find them. So these are the garlic and thyme crackers. And I've doubled the recipe, so I should make about 110 crackers. So very generous, just plain flour. So I'm not sure, I haven't worked out how much per portion, but gee whiz, I couldn't imagine it'd be any more than about 80 cents to make per batch. All right, everyone, thanks so much for joining me this morning. How long did that take? 22 minutes. 22 minutes to make some crackers and some dips. So really couldn't be any easier. And that's my entertaining sorted for this afternoon when we invite ourselves up to my parents' place. All right, ladies, as always, send me a message or a call if you've got any questions. I'd love to help, particularly when it comes to Cookie Doo, because it can be a little bit confusing, so I'd be very happy to help. All right, I'm going to get this little boy fed. There he is. So I think he's 3 weeks old today, so a little bit unpredictable, but he made it through most of the session asleep, so it's really good. All right, guys, thank you and happy Easter. All right, bye-bye. How do I turn this off?